We've actually we've got two of the best players, not only in North America, but in the entire planet. We have Will Anderson, who is obviously Wonder of 15. He is a, all round good guy and former national champion. And he is going to be playing against former world champion Adam Logan, who we saw on the stream earlier today. So we're kind of expecting some pretty much perfect play. Really, these two are one of the best players around.
Yeah, this is as good as it gets. These are formidable opponents. There's almost a bit of a case of a Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man kind of experience because they both have sublime word knowledge and process things extremely quickly.
So yeah, we're expecting a very interesting and very high quality game between both players.
And
Ooh, interesting
again, the
first.
Z foiling an initial rack.
Okay, so number of words that will get the Z on the double letter square here, but which one is best? So there's zebra, Zerda, or Xander. I think Xander is probably the worst one out of those, keeping the B. So maybe the zebra, I guess. I mean, he's got that lined up right now, and he's not taking too long to play it. And zebra obviously takes an S on the end, and then you can also put another S on the end of that. So zebras is good as well.
Did you always say zebra, or I was expecting a zebra there? But is this a
I mean,
sign of your assimilation to America? Or
yeah, I've had to adjust my Z sounding words to zebra, not zebra, um, or say the word say Z instead of Z. I've had to adjust. Otherwise, people will not know what I'm talking about. So, okay, looks like looks like there was maybe a slight problem with the board or something, but I think they fixed it now, and it now definitely is on Will's turn. So, what can Will play here?
he could play jam for 35. He could play job for 28. What is he? Yeah, for people who are newer to the game, those high point tiles, you want to get them out of your way. ES, there really is. These guys are going to be thinking about bingoing early and often, and all the high point tiles they're just going to chuck out of the way whenever they can to maximize their chances of bingoing. So I would expect Jam to go down 35 points. EGOS, while the G is on its own, it's not the most wonderful letter. EGOS is a fine, promising bingo leave. Bingo being where you play all 7 tiles, get that 50-point bonus, and Will sets himself up nicely.
Yeah, I mean, you can put G underneath the ZA as well. So actually, a lot of those letters that he has kind of goes underneath ZA and EM. So you can do EM, EME, or EMO, or EMS. So actually, it's pretty flexible the way that he played it. And obviously, the G and the O are his worst tiles currently. As he puts more tiles on his rack, he actually ends up picking another O and E actually. So he will end up probably trying to play underneath that, and with the Z and the J kind of there, and you can kind of play underneath both of those tiles. You're going to rack up the score pretty quickly if your opponent doesn't go there, and still get rid of kind of your worst tiles. But yeah, Jam looked like a very solid play on this case.
And Adam reflexively orders his letters into alphabetical order. You might wonder, why do we all do that? A lot of people study the words that way. They study bingos that way, where you'll see all 7 letters in alphabetical order. We call that an alphagram. And then they just, that's the most comfortable. Once you've studied a few thousands of hours, that's just how you're used to seeing and processing the letters. So, oh, nice find here. He plays Zadie, which I believe is an ant or an aunt. I would say ant myself. Maybe Austin would say
I would
aunt.
say aunt. Yeah, I would say the other way.
Uh,
30.
yeah. Oh, no. 36 points is about as good as he was going to do out of that unpromising combo. So well done.
Yeah, just a thing in the chat is that the scores are actually currently the other way around. Okay, we've just fixed it now. So Yep, Adam does have 88 points to Will's 35. There's no floating N on the board for Osteogen. So it doesn't look like he's actually going to be able to bingo here. He's going to look to get rid of the G and the O and one of the O and E maybe alongside it. So he could play something above the E, B, and the R of zebra and playing Go, G-O-E or G-O-O. Again, neither of them score particularly well, but leaves the optimal letters on your rack for a bingo on the next turn and a good balance between score or what available scores you can actually get with this turn and the letters you're keeping.
Yeah, and a classic a classic newcomer mistake here would be to play your S immediately and try to get 30 points for hooking zebras. But the S is so valuable for bingos where you use all your letters that what you're going to see experts do a lot of the time is just hold on to the S unless they have a really solid scoring play. So yes, he could maybe play Stooge and score 25 points immediately, but that S is worth at least you can think of it as being worth 10 points or something like that right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely not a tile that you want to be playing off in a hurry for cheap points, so to speak. Similar with a blank, but to a greater degree. But it looks like Will is opting to play Goo and keeping 2 E's on his rack. 18 points that will score, so he moves up to 53 as we see Adam holding the word thunder on his rack, which plays underneath the R and the A of zebra. And that would score 73 points. Only problem with that is that it will put the E and the R, well, the E actually, just below the double letter square, which would give easy access to the triple word square on the middle right of the board. Although he could also just play Thunder and Tor, so above the OR of Goo and Zebra, which would not open up any triple. That is also an option for him, although it scores 7 fewer points. So definitely something to consider as well. And the third playable bingo he can play is actually just putting AT in Thunder, or underneath the A on Zebra. So there's only 3 different possible ways he can play Thunder here. There's no way. I mean, he's obviously got it spelled out in his rack, so he's going to quickly compute all the different possible ways of playing this bingo and see which he thinks is best overall.
Yeah, so you might be asking, well, why wouldn't he just take the points? Can it possibly be worth it to play Thunder for 66 instead of 73? But the answer is yes. I would play Thunder and Tor myself. Putting that E underneath the double letter score that goes to the triple word score, super dangerous. One of the most dangerous openings you can possibly create. I would say that's a 10 points worth of danger, just in terms of, although the Z is gone, so the absolute worst case scenario is not going to happen. But I would play Thunder and Tor all day. Wouldn't even think about taking the 7 extra points. Let's see what Adam thinks of that. Maybe I'm being too risk averse. We will see what another expert thinks.
Asking me about.
Yeah, actually, yeah. What would you do? What would you do, Austin?
I mean, I'm not. I mean, I'm generally a person that will score more points, but I think if you play Thunder below the R and the A, you probably. I mean, you're trying to avoid an H or a W or an F. There's quite a number of tiles that can go there, and that's just that one spot. Like the other 4 letters or even longer than that could actually have other big point tiles. You could probably easily give away. You could easily give away, up to 40, 50 points. But again, the what we said earlier about inference, we're trying to make a guess on what your opponent is keeping. And with Will playing Goo, you're probably expecting that he's holding maybe 4 good, decent tiles, and the chance of him picking 3 or any kind of high-scoring tile that would go above the E with 3 tiles when he just played Goo, probably quite low. Or he would just play a bingo. So, and then that would be open for him to kind of play next time. Um, so maybe in this situation, just based on what he played on Goo, maybe I would play Thunder where Adam played, but it's definitely a situational thing here.
Yeah, you've convinced me, actually. I think you're 100% right. I hadn't thought about that factor, but goo does signal other low point tiles. So, right, the risk of a giant play at overlapping thunder was lower. So that was really well identified.
So Will just played Overstrome, which can be spelled without that first O. 59 points. We call it a baby bingo when it's a bingo that doesn't really score very much. And this is pretty much as low as, almost as low as an 8-letter bingo can really score. It's only 59 points. But again, nothing to stick your nose up at, really. It's still a lot of points in the grand scheme of things. And yeah, Adam has drawn some big tiles. You could play something like Batik, Batik, just to the right of the ONE of Overstrone. That would score a number of points. There's probably something better that you can probably play there. But I believe Overstrone also does take an S, so that is also a danger. And with the T of Overstrone there, it kind of blocks that E of Thunder to play across to that triple. So it kind of does a little bit of a defensive work as well.
Why are we devaluing babies in society?
We never did. Well,
Baby bingos should be our most precious bingos.
that is true. We should be valuing that more, especially you and me, at least.
Yeah,
But,
especially if our significant others are watching.
Alex said in the chat, I thought baby bingos are high prop bingos. Is that what you? Is that how you defined it, or am I getting it?
Oh, have we found another U.S. UK divergence? Fascinating. This is not one I was aware of.
I don't know. Maybe I have been misinterpreting this the whole time.
Wow, you really learn things as a
Maybe I'm
commentator, especially when people get the chance to tell you that you're mistaken about things.
Okay, so he has played Batik. He could have also played something like Bandit or Bankit, so Bankit, but that opens up a 9-timer lane. So maybe he didn't want to do that. And ND is a pretty good combination of tiles there. Although the ND of Thunder is currently floating right now, which probably doesn't go too well with the letters he has, but probably the best he can do out of the situation currently. Although Will does have a bingo, he drew straight into another bingo. So maybe something like Padrone and OBE potentially, unless there are 4-timers through that D of Thunder.
He also has Pomander
Yes.
double through the D for 90, but I think he's gonna dial up the style meter, if only because that way he gets to make a cool video about it later. I think he's gonna put a little bit of time right now. You see his facial reaction. He's like, is there really? Do I really have to go through all 26 letters of the alphabet to find something that scores 100 points? Yes, you do. Will entertain us.
Find it. Come on. It's got to be a content.
I haven't
play here.
found it, so it's a race between me and Will. I mean, he could also just play Persona, which is, that would be like 90 plus, making oboe and nan and eta. But dude, I want to see 4 overlaps minimum here.
And there actually is just one word that does that. There's one word. Adam has just got it in the chat. It's Repo Man, making oboe, nam, eta, and in, which gets 90 points, which is actually the highest scoring bingo alongside any of the 4-timers he's about to play. So Dog Napper is an option, and Jesse said about Pomander through the other D of Thunder, and Expander as well, using the blank as an X. All those 4 words with Reaper Man are 90 points.
I actually don't like this play very much. I'm really surprised he wouldn't take the chance to block the right side. I know it's 90 points, but I'm sure he saw something like Persona. I guess it's a volatile board and there are many places to play, but to me, the right side of the board feels like something I would have tried to cover up. So I'm intrigued by his logic here.
Yes, Adam D is saying you can spell dognapper with one P. That is true. You can also spell like kidnapper with one P, and I think catnapper also. You can do those with one P as well. It's a bit of a strange kind of words. It doesn't kind of look right, so to speak. But yeah, I definitely would have played on the right side of the board just for a bit more defense. And it's actually, again, we just said that Reaper Man scored exactly the same number of points. And again, if he doesn't see that, he'd have Persona for 89, which is actually just 1 point fewer. I think it's probably worth blocking. Also, Dognapper opens another triple from that A of Dognapper as well, which is another volatile spot. Um, and again, what we kind of mentioned earlier about if one player kind of draws a lot of the good tiles, so to speak. I know so far Will has bingo twice in a row. It looks like he's going to bingo again. He's got the other blank, although the scores are actually still very close. But it definitely helps to draw well, and so far Will is doing just that.
The universe has told Will, no, try again. Seriously, find an overlap.
Again,
I double dare you. So we'll see if he can turn on the style and find something that overlaps all the letters in batik. But yeah, aping is going down from Adam here. Makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of promise to that rack. You almost want to keep the ing if you can, maybe, but it was hard to see how to do that and score points. So aping 33 points makes a lot of sense, and keeping an S as well has a fair chance of bingoing himself in response.
Exactly. It actually ends up blocking Adonai's and Batik's for Will as well. That would have scored probably another 90 points or so. I'm sure he can still score a lot here, but on a static evaluation, according to the engine, aping is the best play, one of the highest scoring players he could have played. You could also have played something like Lisp as well and Batix if you wanted to block that very volatile S spot. But again, aping keeping the S is very strong.
Yeah, Will has at least a 3 overlap word that I see now. Also on the right, he can play Codena, with making the blank a C. That's a variant spelling of codeine that exists in the dictionary for God knows what reason. But then it would overlap and make OB, OBI, non, and ETA again, and be another 90-point-ish option. So knowing Will, he's going to see that that's a possibility.
Yes. And actually, Codina is the only 3-tile underlap here, scoring 86 points, and he has found it. Again, we're just seeing just Scrabble at its highest level played right now. There's really no missteps so far at all. Every single move is scoring very well and pretty much at the top of the evaluation for every single move. So we have not really had to sweat too much here as commentators, but these guys are absolutely crushing it with the word finding on display right now.
Yeah, you saw a quick shake of the head from Adam as that second blank went down, which is an interesting signal. I actually find that Adam can get quite frustrated when his opponents get fortunate against him. So it was interesting to see that. Let's see if it influences his decision making and response at all. What do you think he should do here, Austin? He's not in bad shape, but he is trailing, and his tiles don't do that much of anything.
Yeah. I mean, he has the S, and there's still 2 S's on scene. And for once, both of these blanks are actually already played and not staying till the end of the game. So he could cash in that X right now with XI and aping. That scores 36. He's currently down by 46, despite being out bingoed, so to speak, 3-1 so far. So even if he plays that, he's only 10 behind, still very close. And he has the X. If he plays XI and draws into an E or an A, he Vise or Visa Batiks. You can score another 40, mid 40s there as well. Another other players that he could potentially consider here are things like Vild, Vild, next to the O and E of Oestron, just to the left of it, would score 21. Or even further, if he wants to play something like Livid and Do on that same O, opening up the triple for 23, keeping SX. That is technically another option, but I think XI here scores way more than anything else. And that's probably what I would do, just because it scores so well.
Yeah, whenever you have a power tile, you always have to think about whether you can create any or whether you can set up any opportunities for yourself or create a high scoring play. It's kind of hard to see uh, anything particularly brilliant for Adam. He could play something like Glid for 6 points on the bottom row, which would set up XI for 53. That's not a good option, but it's kind of to illustrate just how you should always, when you have a power tile, you should always find your best setup as a just in case, because the reality is that these setup plays are often coming on boards where there are many other alternatives. So your opponent often would have to spend a lot of effort to block them. It may not be worth it to block at all. And a lot of times it can make your X or whatever power tile you have much more valuable. So you should always find, if you have time, your best setup. I don't see anything all that brilliant for Adam here.
Well, what about Livid through that D of Thunder? What about that? That sets up the X that way. It does a slightly better job of Glid, and with the Li there, you're just hoping to pick out an A or an E, and you've set yourself up for another 50 odd point play. And it's actually a bit more, say, disguised, because you could easily, Will might end up thinking, okay, he's stuck on a bunch of I's and V's. They're playing Livid for 18 onto that D of Thunder, setting up that first I with XI that he is already, the XI is already holding, could be a potential option here, which would net him, if it actually works out, about 70 points in total with those two moves, which could be more fruitful than this XI here of 36 and hoping to pick out an A or an E that's currently in the bag with just two tiles that he'll be grabbing from the bag after XI. What do you think of Livid?
I like Livid. That's the thing about finding these setups, is that it doesn't happen that frequently, and we're kind of not as trained to do it as finding bingo plays. So
Exactly.
it's often kind of challenging or kind of an outside the box exercise to track it down as an option. But I'm going to grab my dime and invoke Nigel Richards. He's famous for his setups and sort of kind of showing the world that setups are worth investing in the highest levels of Scrabble. He once had a game against me where he made 3 setups of 3 separate power tiles, I believe, each of which he cashed in, which was quite the painful thing to experience. So I think Livid is the thing I like about Livid is that it's not really you're not creating a spot that Will can do that much about. Like, it would cost Will something to block it, and I really don't think XI. It's hard to see what DILSV is ever going to turn into. So I think I would, if I had the presence of mind to think of Livid, I think I would play it. Good find.
Thanks. Yeah. I could definitely claim that one, and not look at the engine for that, because the engine is not particularly great at like finding or coming up with options to set up plays. Although Livid is still, actually with 18 points, is not really an option on the analyzer as it stands. But I think if you're 46 behind right now, you kind of really want to try and get as close to even in the next 2 moves, especially with the board now. Even though despite 4 bingos already being played, the board is not that open, and even if you play Livid, it kind of blocks that even more. You really only have the spots through the N and the G of aping to kind of get a bingo down, or maybe the N and D of thunder, but those would not be available if you play livid. So yeah, I mean, you really want to try and cash in these big tiles, try and get to almost even, and try and get rid of those bad tiles as quickly as possible, and hope to bingo sooner rather than later at this level.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of pushback in chat. A lot of people want to just go with XI right away and take the points. But to me, it's all about what is your path to victory. You should always know that at basically all points in the game. And yeah, if Adam decides that XI followed by potentially drawing Visa or Viz is enough to potentially draw him level with Will, then he'll go down that path. I Visa would actually be 45, and so I don't mind it as a try. I think taking the points for XI or playing Livid, or I think Livid has a bit more upside, especially because with Livid, you're keeping NS, which is a pretty good. You're keeping NSX, so you can play off the X and whatever bad tiles come in, and still have it. You could actually still bingo through the G at the bottom of the board, or the N. It kind of leaves that area more open. So I have, while talking, I have convinced myself again that Livid is best.
Yeah, another thing to consider also is that if Livid comes down and you can't play next to that I, where is your opponent going to go? Especially if they don't have an S for Batiks. And one of the main places to score points is actually next to Eta. So it turns out that Will might end up playing something like Gull, Gull, which actually ends up blocking that spot anyway. So you might want to try and carve out another spot for yourself, like Livid, that is not going to get blocked with for your potential play of Vise or something like that. But as we see in the chat, using so much time is what Jason Drake has said in the chat. Adam must have burnt a good 7 or 8 minutes on this turn. And he ends up with playing XI in the end. And yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that Will is not like playing a move like straight away here. I mean, he's also had a good 8 minutes to think of something. And I don't think he would have actually played through the ING of aping anyway. So we'd like to have seen him play a little bit faster just to keep things ticking along on Adam's time.
Yeah, but he has to consider the fact that XI to him probably looks like a Q setup. Although it would confuse me a little bit why Adam took so much time, but he could easily think that Adam has Qin and Qi for 63, or QIN and QI if you don't want the pinyin pronunciation. But so he has to think about, he's thinking about blocking. He set up long line on his rack to go through the IN and block. I actually think the fact that Adam took 8 minutes would suggest that he doesn't have the Q, because it would have been such a commandingly good play that he just would have done it immediately. But that Will may not be thinking that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, someone like Adam will generate these options so quickly. It would almost be, I would expect Adam to see a XI and QI combination within like a minute and actually would have executed the move. So I don't know if he's maybe thinking that, Adam might be holding the I and trying to draw into a Q, or maybe he's already holding the Q but doesn't have an I, something like that. Maybe it's like an almost setup, so to speak, is what he's trying to banking on. And with XI, as I said, Adam is only 10 points behind. Something like QI in that spot would score 63 and put Will back in the hole, basically, despite having 3 bingos to Adam's 1. But again, making inference on what XI is, and also thinking about how long he took, I don't think he needs to play long line here. He's keeping
No,
a
I think
U.
it would be a major mistake, actually. I think he has to be careful of overcorrecting because another downside of long line is that it leaves a U. If he plays Gull
Yeah,
right here in Geta, he keeps ENO. Like that's these kind of small margins and leaves like can really magnify. So I think he's actually over respecting Adam here and the potential lead he could have, and it's going to cost him big time. He's going to find out real quick that he did not read this position correctly.
exactly. Divest has come down, so he's kind of so Adam is kind of um, distracted Will here by playing something like XI, almost like a fake out almost, and playing longline. And Divest scores 54 points, which puts him kind of into the lead now. Actually, he's actually ahead by 22. So he's up to let's see, he's up to 332 to Will's 310, and yeah, I mean, what can we say about that? This is the level that we're watching right now, and yeah, I mean, it's incredible. You got to think of these things, the psychology of the players as well, and minor things like this can swing a game. But Will has Yuch. Why? I think that's good, right? Yucch.
I would pronounce it yuck
Yuck, yuck. But how do you
because
pronounce
it's
it?
onomatopoeia. Sorry.
Yuck. And that was go with yo. I mean, sorry, ho onto the first O of Overstrone. And he has no vowel to go underneath the L of long line in the bottom corner to hit the triple, so he can't do anything with that. And in the end, actually, after playing Divest, Adam actually does pick out QI, pick up the Q. So,
The long con.
exactly, the fake out actually did end up being something, but long line came out anyway. But yeah, I think Yuch probably best. I mean, I don't know if he's wondering about opening up the board, but Adam just plays 6 tiles. He's basically got almost a random rack here. So I think you're just going to take the points and get rid of your bad tiles.
Well, more to the point, he's now losing, so he can't afford to say like, "Oh, I'm going to keep the board tight," because
Yeah,
it's the game is totally up for the taking, and if he's overly conservative, then he's just not going to win.
exactly. It's going to backfire pretty heavily if he's too much on the defensive side here. But yeah, I still think that's probably the best play. And you can see the tiles left on the screen right now, the bottom of the screen, underneath the board. So yeah, kind of an assortment of tiles still. Nothing is not too bingo-y and not too dangerous. I mean, not too too scary in that sense. But there's still a number of big tiles and things to kind of avoid. There's still 21 tiles in the bag still. We're getting closer to the end of the game here, and both players kind of running down their clock a little bit. And Will has put Yuch on his rack now. I think he's thinking about it. It's actually upwards of 40 points as well, so it scores very well, keeping EM. He's thinking of Chime. Maybe as a slightly more defensive play, making Yo, ME, and me and S. But
Wow.
CU is not a good leave whatsoever. But yeah, he's
Yeah,
going to go for.
he's got to do it. He did the head shake, so you can tell he's
Yeah.
scared of what Adam could have here, but he did it.
And fortunately, with that U of Yuck in that spot, Adam cannot play any QU big plays through the triple letter square there. It kind of stops that.
But
And
he
that's
can
like,
do. It does set up the W for in front of Ho, so Adam can actually do something like wield right now
yes,
or wild, and that's keeping QSU. We know we say like don't keep the Q, but if you got QU and an S, all of a sudden you're threatening some big scoring plays. So I like something like wield or wild here.
yeah, and also don't forget that with the I placement of Wield or Wild, you're actually setting up a very good spot with the Q if you can't, or you want to keep the S and the U for a later turn. So it's got added bonus there with getting almost a guaranteed 31 points, because it's very unlikely your opponent will probably go there. With actually looking at what tiles are left, only the H and the M would go as the biggest tiles available left now. Are the ones that will go to the left of an I if Wheeled was played. So it wouldn't score that much. You're definitely going to use the H or the M, probably to use the triple or play underneath long line, something like that. So it's unlikely that something will get played there. And even HM can go above Goo as well, the two O's. So something like that will probably be a bit more juicy, and it won't actually end up blocking that QI spot.
Yeah. He could also do something like Quill, and that's if he's really
Yeah.
scared of big plays on the bottom left of the board. He could do that, and then he saves the W for the Who spot. So I could see that being defensible. I think I would still do Wield, though. I just like the upside of drawing into a big potential Q play. You could also draw Quasi and Oestrones for 46, and he's done it. Yeah.
Yep, and you can also draw, a bunch of words through the Y of Yuch as well. There's still three E's and three R's I'm seeing to him. Like Query could be an option as well. So those things are available to him. So the Q is actually quite powerful here, especially with the
Or
letters that.
you could just draw a bingo and draw squares out of the bag. I mean, that's we
Well,
didn't discuss that option.
ooh, there we go. There's a space for it now.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't know where squares is
Yeah.
going, but I know now.
Wow, that should be pretty much an instant play, I think. There, with squares, unless there's anything that we're missing.
Fireworks incoming.
Yeah,
Shots
here we
fired.
go. Wow. Again, just illustrating how quickly the games at this level can change. Will coming with 3 bingos back to back early on in this game, but is still pegged back with some very high scoring plays from Adam, and then hit with another big play of squares underneath the one spot that Will had just played. So this firmly puts Adam in the driving seat now.
And the bag is there one tile in the bag?
One in the bag, yeah. One in the bag.
Oh man, we're in for another treat here. Well, he's down 50, but he Adam was nice enough to leave one tile in the bag, so that means Will's going to get one last chance to try to improve his rack and see if he can steal the game. That would be a huge swing if he can pull it off. I don't know what he can do yet, but let's dig into it.
So interestingly, the F is actually still the last tile in the bag. And as we're looking at it, Adam has no real big scoring plays without that F. So will be able to score pretty well, probably in the next 2 turns, despite a 50-point deficit.
Will isn't that far away from Waftier or Wafture, Wafture.
Yeah.
I wonder, he could just play off an E at the bottom left for 2 points. He could play EL and try to set those up. The problem is that Adam can probably just block with impunity, but it may not be especially easy for him to block. So I wonder if there's probably something better than that, but that's a try that comes to mind.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And the only problem really is that there's actually no real easy place to bingo other than that. He needs to kind of carve out some kind of, say unblockable place, but it's not really going to be possible with one tile. And also, Adam will know what Will would be holding on the final rack. So I don't expect that those kind of things will work against someone like Adam. And especially with the board shaped as it is, there's no real place to to go elsewhere with any kind of bingo. So it's probably not going to work in this case. So that in mind, he might just want to try and score as many points as possible here. Um, so even if he does something like, I don't know, EW in that same spot and try and hit some kind of big outplay. I mean, I don't know if he's going to try and think that maybe the F is still in the bag. If he can get 20, 22 points here, maybe another 40 points the next turn, you can at least get close. But yeah, I think 50 points is a little bit too far, too much of a deficit at this stage to really realistically come back with any kind of victory here.
He grabbed the E. I will point out, so it's at least
He's thinking of it.
crossed his mind.
Thinking of it.
Yeah. The chat also informs me that wafty is not a word. I don't know where the hell that came from, guys. Sorry. When you do enough streaming like this, your brain starts to turn to mush. So bear with me. Not as cool a play as I thought it was. But wafter is a
That's just still good.
is a
Yeah.
that's a word, folks. I didn't
But
make
at the
that
same
one up.
time, yeah, it's a 1 in 8 chance, and even then, it will probably get blocked. And don't forget that these guys are playing. They're playing against. They're all rivals in this tournament right now. You don't want to be giving too many extra points of spread away to these players. So maybe he could be. I mean, Will could be contemplating just trying to lose by as few points as possible and protect his spread. As you can see, both players' spread are within 100 of each other. So it could all come down to that at the end of the tournament on Tuesday. But yeah, Will's got about 3.5 minutes to think about what are his best ways to win. He's lined up two. Maybe he wants to try and double the F. So he's playing. I think he's going to try and play two just above long line, the L and the O, putting the T in that triple lane. Hopefully he can cash in that F. If there's any word ending with FT and hitting the triple on the next turn potentially. But I feel like U might be best because I don't think Adam really has any good maybe 6 letter plays with any of the 8 tiles that are left from his point of view. I need to run it through Ziziva, but I don't see anything too great with that.
Yeah, I would fish. I know you were saying like it's a long tournament. You want to hold on to your spread. We've even talked earlier on the stream about how 10 points of spread one way or the other can make a difference. But you never know what people are going to do. Like they don't necessarily have perfect information either about like they can screw up the tracking or not know what letters your opponent has. You don't want to you want to give yourself a chance, so I'm not certain what the best way is of doing that, but I would be pretty surprised if Will just throws in the towel and takes 30 points here. But then again, that is what he has lined up on his rack, so he's free to immediately prove me wrong. But it's like if you don't give yourself a chance, your opponent certainly isn't going to. But if you do give yourself a chance, then your opponent at least has to
think about it.
get something right. You don't want to over assume your opponent's competence.
That is true. I don't know. I mean, again, that's kind of also the way that tournaments are run. Obviously the tiebreakers are the number of wins, and then it's down to spread. But it looks like Will is playing free, keeping TAW. He'll actually end up picking an F for Waft, and he can play Waft and Watt WHOT, which would score another 30 points. So he might be trying to outrun Adam here, which is an interesting play. I wonder how much is free. Free is 35, so he's only 15 points behind and threatening a play that will score 30 into the last move.
Yeah, but Quail or anything from the queue here is gonna. It appears that Adam's rack has disappeared into the void, but I assure you that he's got a U, and any kind of Actually, that's Adam's sleeve that we're looking at.
It is, yeah. His arms in the way currently.
Uh, and yeah, so any kind of Q play is gonna get the job done.
The job done. Yeah, I
But
think so too.
yeah, this is an interesting point. If the A was in the bag, then Tawa would have fit at the bottom left for 34 points as an outplay.
Yes,
So Will probably thought his way through this and saw that it could conceivably pose some issues. But the problem then is Adam would have had Quoif or
exactly.
Quaff for 36 if he had the F. So he's kind of, I think Will knows he's always going to lose. That's kind of part of the appeal of the fishing. I'll stop talking about this, I promise. But part of the appeal of threatening wafture somewhere is that in that scenario, Adam doesn't have the U for QU plays, so he's actually like he might have trouble blocking and then scoring enough conceivably. But that ship has sailed. We're looking at a scenario where Adam Logan probably going to stitch this one up, and he's just thinking through the best way to maximize that spread and push his tiebreaker to the max.
Yes, exactly. And quite basically what we're looking at here is quite coming down to the queue of squares, and then waft and wat for Will on the right side of the board, top right side of the board, which will end up being a let's see, it's a 7 point win for Adam in the end. So he still needs to find those players. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going to have no real problem doing it. But anything with that queue up there, I think is going to get rid of as many tiles as possible and score maximum number of points that he can get with the tiles he has.
Can he play Oculi first through the sea to block Waft? And then go out himself first next turn? Or are there multiple places for Waft? I only see the one.
Actually, something like that would be best. So he could play something like Saito, or and then set up Quail on the next turn, and that would actually block Waft. That's the only only place he can go out. So Saito would be fine. Also Chow as well. CIAO in that spot with a C of yuck. Would also set up Quilt. Yuck, yeah. That would also set up Quilt as an outplay as well. So yeah, maybe Adam will try and block the one and only outplay. I mean, it should be a bit easier to figure out, but maybe he is just going to take the win here and not sweat about it and play extra moves, which is definitely
very defensible, yeah.
reasonable thing to do. Again, as I keep saying, any winning play is the best play, and Hale does that. But it does give away around probably about 15 points of spread if that really matters to him. But again, the win is most important here.
He's probably not going to lose any sleep over that one.
I don't think so either. Unless he loses the tournament by about 15 points of spread to Will. But yeah, Waft is the only outplay here. 30 points. And yeah, that should be a 470 to 463 game. We've watched another close game between two very, very strong players.